Part 1. The fracture, a 10-year marriage, undone by a single, cloying text from his assistant. He watched his wife shatter his late mother's locket for that snake, then call him the filth. The night he signed the divorce papers, he dumped his stock, cratering her corporate empire. At her victory gala, a special delivery, a live-streamed highlight reel of her darling's intimate photos and secret recordings. Isabel, he'd said, this is just the beginning of what you deserve. Part 2. The divorce this time. He would be the one to light the fires of hell. Isabel Reed bailed me out of a downtown precinct, pulling me off a cold, steel bench without saying a word the entire ride back. The engine of her Maserati Gran Turismo was a low growl, but the atmosphere inside the car was colder than a morgue. I rubbed my wrists, raw and aching from the handcuffs, and watched the city's neon lights blur past the window. Whatever lingering hope I'd been clinging to felt like it was being blasted away by the cold air. Isabel, I said, my voice so calm it startled even me. I want a divorce. A screech of tires tore through the silence as she slammed on the brakes, jerking the car to a stop on the shoulder. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her profile as hard and unforgiving as granite. Ethan, are you done yet? She hissed through clenched teeth. This has gone far enough. I turned to look at her. The face that was once my entire world now looked exhausted and alien, a stranger's face that could only break my heart. I stretched my lips into something that wasn't a smile. It was the hollow, absurd feeling of having your soul scooped out. I've never been more clear about anything in my life, I said, staring into the eyes that once held my universe, but now only reflected my own pathetic image and her seething impatience. Isabel, let's just let each other go. We're both tired. The air in the car froze. You gave her a pin drop. Why? She bit out, the word cold enough to cause frostbite. Give me one good reason. What is this new brand of crazy? Crazy? I lowered the window. The early autumn night air rushed in, a crisp slap of reality. I pointed a finger at the rearview mirror at the Porsche Panamera that had been tailing us, shadowing our every move. My voice was steady. I'll give you 10 seconds. I bet your little pet comes running. 10, 9, 8. I didn't even make it to 7. The Panamera's door flew open and a man in a ridiculously tight designer suit stumbled out. Leo Vance. His eyes were red-rimmed like a frightened rabbit as he scrambled to my window. The tears and the panic tremor in his voice were a masterclass in acting. I had no idea a grown man could be so damn theatrical. Ethan, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. 1,000% my fault. The tears flowed on command, a broken dam of manufactured regret. Today I had to help Isabel get ready for that huge gala, and her gown had a last-minute issue. I was just going home to grab the backup. I swear I didn't know you were home, Ethan. I never would have thought you'd think I was a burglar and call the cops. He reached out, grabbing for my hand. It's all on me. Please don't take this out on Isabel. It's my fault. I'm begging you. If you're still pissed, just hit me. Right here. Go ahead, deck me. Teach me a lesson. Let off some steam. A wave of nausea washed over me. I tried to pull my hand back, but he clung to it. Ethan, where the hell are your manners? Isabel's voice was like a thunderclap, laced with blatant favoritism and accusation. Did you lose them? Let go of him. And there it was. Here I was, the one sitting here like an idiot, forced to endure this three-ring circus, and I was still the one in the wrong. I was the one with no manners. I was the one making a scene. An overwhelming sense of absurdity and a cold, hard rage finally broke through the dam of calm I'd been trying to maintain. I yanked my hand free, so hard that Leo cried out and stumbled back against the car door. I whipped my head around, my eyes burning like hot coals, and locked onto Isabel's impatient face. I forced the words out one by one from between my teeth. Now, do you get it? Isabel, this is the goddamn reason. A divorce. Now, immediately. I unbuckled my seatbelt with a sharp click and shoved the door open. The night wind felt like freedom. Leo stood by the car, clutching the wrist I'd thrown off, tears still streaking his face. But for a split second, a flash of smug triumph crossed his eyes. I looked at him and offered a smile, so cold it could freeze fire. My voice was quiet, but crystal clear. Congratulations, Leo. All these years, burrowing into our lives like a maggot, kissing asked to climb the ladder. Well, you finally fucking made it. Isabel, I said, taking one last look at the woman I once would have died for. My tone was flat, as if I were talking about someone else's life. I don't want you anymore. I turned and walked away without a second's hesitation. Ethan. Isabel's voice finally cracked with a hint of panic. She jumped out of the car, her heels clacking on the pavement as she rushed over and grabbed my wrist. What the hell is wrong with you? She yelled, her voice a mix of anger and that infuriating, condescending judgment. Do you have any idea that because of your ridiculous 911 call, I lost a $100 million deal tonight? Because you claimed there was a burglar, I had to ditch my clients and race to the damn police station like a lunatic. And for what? To find out you had my executive assistant arrested. Ethan, I have put up with you for a long time, she seethed. You constantly go after Leo. And what does he do? He defends you. He's always telling me not to be angry with you, to try and get along. And you're just a goddamn ungrateful bastard. Her grip was crushing my wrist, the bones grinding together. An old scar there flared up with a searing pain. I sucked in a sharp breath and tried to pry her fingers off, my voice like ice. Let go. Isabel, let me the hell go. The rage and years of buried resentment erupted like a volcano. I wrenched myself free and, using the momentum, I swung my hand back and slapped her across her beautiful, cold face with all the strength I'd left. Crack. The sound was sharp and ugly in the quiet night. Isabel, I gasped for air, my eyes bloodshot, a cornered animal finally lashing out. I've been putting up with you for a long time, too. We have been together for 10 years. From a naive college romance to building her empire from scratch, supporting each other through every corporate battle. We'd fought, we'd given each other the silent treatment, we'd stormed out for days at a time, but never, not once, had I shattered her perfect, composed image in front of an outsider. I was done being patient. I was done putting up with it. Let me tell you something. I pointed at her, then at Leo, who stood frozen with a look of shock that quickly morphed into secret delight. I let all the poison out. When I had a 104-degree fever and was laid up in the ER on a 4-drip, where the hell were you? You were with your precious Leo, rescuing some stray cat in his neighborhood. When I got rear-ended and the other driver was being an asshole, I called you. Where were you? You were with Leo, stargazing and talking about your fucking hopes and dreams. Every single time I needed you, you were always with your assistant. And today you gave him the security code to our home. While I was asleep after taking a sleeping pill, you let him walk into our bedroom like he owned the place. To get something of yours. Isabel, I yelled until my throat was raw, my chest heaving. From that moment on, we were done. It's over. Do you understand? My emotions were a runaway train. The composure I'd fought so hard to keep was completely gone. I watched her expression shift from fury to shock, then to a flicker of guilt. She opened her mouth to argue, but her voice had lost its conviction. I didn't know you were back from your business trip early. You know how important the Henderson meeting was. Ethan, she looked at me, her eyes filled with a profound disappointment, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. When did you become so irrational, so jealous and possessive? You latch onto the smallest, most insignificant thing and won't let it go, acting like some kind of scorned housewife. Ethan, no woman wants a man like that. You're such a disappointment. I thought my heart was already dead, that it couldn't hurt anymore. From signing that humiliating release form at the station to sitting in her car in silence, I kept telling myself, be civil. I replayed 10 years of good memories in my head, trying to give our story a decent ending. But Isabel's complaints and accusations were like poison needles, finding every last vulnerability in my broken heart. It wasn't because of love anymore. It was because of the injustice. Because it was a waste. Because I had given 10 years of my life to a lie. You're right. No one would want me like this. My eyes were red. So, I don't need you to want me anymore. Isabel, your love. It feels dirty to me now. I turned to leave, but Leo blocked my path again. He grabbed my arm, his performance hitting its crescendo. Ethan, nothing pissed me off more than Leo's top-tier, manipulative bullshit. A hot rage shot straight to my brain. I ripped my arm away, shoving him so hard he fell to the ground. Get the hell away from me, I roared, and stop with the goddamn theatrics. Leo landed hard on his ass, He sat there, clutching his arm, looking up at me with a stunned, disbelieving expression. But deep in his eyes, I saw a flicker of pure hatred. "Ethan, have you lost your goddamn mind?" Isabel shrieked, rushing to help Leo up. She saw his designer suit was torn and his palm was scraped and bleeding. She turned on me like a feral cat, her voice a raw scream. "Apologize to him. Right now. Apologize to him." I looked at her coddling him, at the flash of victory in Leo's eyes as he lowered his head, and I felt nothing but disgust. "In your fucking dreams. You want me to apologize?" I pointed at them both, my words sharp and final. "Isabel, make this easy and sign the papers. If you don't, I'll see you in court. I'll sue for divorce, and I will drag this out until the bitter end." Without another look back, I ignored the sound of Leo's fake sobs and Isabel's furious shouts of maniac and unreasonable. I walked to the curb and hailed a cab. "The Sterling Lofts, please." That was my best friend Mark's place. When I got there, Mark answered the door in basketball shorts and flip-flops. He took one look at my bloodshot eyes, my disheveled hair, and the dark purple fingerprints Isabel had left on my wrist, and didn't ask a single question. He just stepped aside to let me in. He went to the kitchen, opened his massive stainless steel fridge, and hauled out 2 cases of ice-cold beer. He dropped them on the coffee table with a loud thud and asked just 3 words. "Is this enough?" I looked at the mountain of green bottles, then at Mark's face, which screamed, "I get it, man." A knot in my throat tightened. After the beer, I was wasted. I stumbled to the bathroom and threw up everything. Empty and exhausted, I collapsed onto the cold bathroom tiles, my back against the wall. I stared at the ceiling and used the last of my strength to rasp out, "I'm getting a divorce. I'm divorcing her, no matter what. And I'm going to make sure Isabel and that bastard Leo go through hell." What comes at the end of love? 2 people who once would have torn out their own hearts for each other, who swore to take on the world together, now wanting nothing more than to plunge a knife into the other's chest. The naive fantasy of being buried side by side in the tomb of marriage, with flowers blooming on top, finally giving way to the bloody reality that even the most beautiful roses will fucking wilt and rot. Part 3. The Betrayal. I crashed at Mark's place for 2 weeks. I blocked Isabel, but not Leo. I wanted to see just how disgusting the 2 of them could be. Unsurprisingly, Leo's Instagram became a live broadcast of their sweet, new life. He posted a dozen times a day, each post a veiled reference to Isabel, dripping with smugness and insinuation. Late night at the office, but at least I have a star to guide me. All the exhaustion just melts away. Photo. A selfie with a huge panoramic window of the CEO's office in the background, catching Isabel's silhouette at her desk. Some people are like stars, guiding you, warming your soul. So grateful. Seeing the world with the boss. The view from first class is unreal. Post after post. Mark was about to explode. He held up his phone, jabbing a finger at Leo's feed. Son of a bitch. This slimy little weasel. Is Isabel blind or just stupid? How could she not see this asshole's game? A dog could smell the bullshit on this guy. He paced the living room like a caged lion. I, on the other hand, was strangely calm. I poured myself a glass of water and took a slow sip before speaking, my voice flat. "Oh, she knows. She knows." Mark stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Knows what? If she knew, why is she still all over this prick? In Isabel's world, as long as they haven't physically slept together, it's all perfectly innocent. She tells herself she's maintained her integrity, that she hasn't cheated. So every time I confronted her about it, she'd shut me down with the same line. "Leo and I are just colleagues. It's purely professional. You're the one with a dirty mind, so you see dirt everywhere." Looking back on it now, it was just pathetic. I cut into Mark's tirade. "All right, stop pacing. What time are the movers coming? We need to go get my stuff." The divorce was happening, but my things, especially the one thing my mother left me, a vintage sapphire locket, I had to get it back. It was locked in the bedroom safe. "As long as you've got a clear head," Mark said, taking a deep breath to calm himself. "I'll be your bodyguard today. Let's see who's dumb enough to start something." We drove back to the luxury downtown condo that I used to call home. I checked Leo's Instagram. He was with Isabel at a tech summit in a neighboring city. According to the schedule, they weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow. Good. Less chance of me having to see his face. I punched in the code and pushed the heavy oak door open. Ugh. Strange perfume, one that didn't belong in this home, hit me immediately. Then I heard the sizzle of a hot pan and the faint sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. My stomach dropped. I walked quickly to the dining room, and the scene in front of me made the blood rush to my head, then turn to ice in my veins. Leo, the man who was supposed to be out of town, was sitting at my dining room table, wearing a pair of my silk pajamas and my slippers, lounging like he was the king of the castle. He was peeling a large grilled shrimp with his fingers, and Isabel, wearing an apron, was walking out of the kitchen with a platter of food, a relaxed smile on her face. The moment she saw me, that smile froze and morphed into shock and a flicker of panic. What are you doing back?" Isabel put the platter down, her voice stiff with an awkward tension. "Have you eaten?" I ignored her pathetic attempt at civility and walked straight to the master bedroom, as if they weren't there. I pushed the door open. The cloying, intimate scent of Leo's cologne filled the air, nearly choking me. The sight before me made my mind go completely blank. My collection of limited edition action figures, once meticulously arranged in their display case, were knocked over, some shattered on the floor. The bed was a wreck, clearly having been slept in. The walk-in closet was wide open, my neatly folded clothes thrown into a chaotic mess. But what made my heart stop was the recessed safe in the wall. The door was slightly ajar. I scrambled over to it, my hands trembling as I pulled the door open. It was empty. The small, rosewood box that held my mother's locket was gone. "Ethan!" Leo's timid voice came from the doorway. He had followed me and was now standing there holding several pieces of shattered blue sapphire and twisted silver in his hand. His face was pale, his eyes darting around nervously. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry." Isabel and I, on the way back from the summit, the suitcase with her gown got lost. She said I should come here and grab a change of your clothes. I accidentally bumped the safe, and it just popped open. I was curious. So, he held up the sharp, glittering fragments of a locket, his voice breaking into a sob. I really didn't mean to. Ethan, I swear, I didn't know. I didn't know it was from your mom. He must have been terrified by the look in my eyes, because he suddenly lunged forward and dropped to his knees in front of me, grabbing my arm, tears and snot streaming down his face. "Ethan, hit me. Please, just hit me. Hit me as hard as you can. It'll make me feel better. Please, I'll bow to you. I'll beg for your forgiveness." He actually made a show of slamming his forehead toward the floor. But just before he made contact, a hand shot out and stopped him. It was Isabel. She forcefully pulled the sobbing, shaking Leo to his feet and shielded him behind her. Only then did she look at me, her brow furrowed, her tone as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "People die and things. Things are just things. It's broken, so it's broken. No matter how valuable it was, it can't be more important than a living person. Leo knows he made a mistake, and he already feels terrible about it. Ethan, you just leave him alone." She stood in front of him, a human shield, and with a few dismissive words, she defined my mother's only legacy as a thing, framed Leo's actions as an accident, and painted me as the cruel, petty villain for being upset. I couldn't speak. It felt like an invisible hand was wrapped around my throat. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably with a mixture of pure rage and grief. It was always like this. All it took was a few crocodile tears from this professional victim, and suddenly everything was my fault. From the time Leo accidentally lost my vintage watch, to when he accidentally damaged a rare art book I owned, to when he accidentally shattered our wedding photo, to him brazenly invading my home, my bedroom, my private space. And now, today, he accidentally opens my safe and accidentally shatters the last piece of my mother I'd left. And Isabel's only response, always, was to tell me to forgive, to be the bigger person, to let it go. A roar filled my ears. In that moment, every shred of reason, every bit of civility I had was utterly destroyed by those cold, broken pieces of sapphire. I spun around, my bloodshot eyes locking onto Leo, who was still hiding behind Isabel, pretending to wipe away tears. Before either of them could react, I lunged forward. I grabbed a fistful of his perfectly styled hair with my left hand, and with all my strength, slammed his head into the solid wall beside us. Thump! A sickening, dull sound, followed by a scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Aya! Before he could recover, I kicked the back of his knee. Crack! Leo crashed to the floor again, his knees hitting the hardwood with a stomach-turning thud. That is not how you beg for forgiveness. My voice was as cold and dead as the Siberian tundra, filled with a terrifying madness. This is how you beg for forgiveness. My eyes were wild. I tightened my grip on his hair and smashed his head into the floor. Thud! A heavier, wetter sound this time. Blood immediately bloomed on his forehead, streaming down his face. He was completely stunned, capable only of a raw, animalistic howl. Ethan, are you insane? Let go of him. Isabel finally snapped out of her shock, screaming as she threw herself at me, her hands clawing at my wrist, trying desperately to pry my fingers loose. Her nails were long and hard, digging into my flesh like knives. The pain was excruciating. I could feel my own fingernails being torn from their beds. But she either didn't notice or didn't care, pulling with even more force, her voice shrill. Let go. Let him the hell go. You're going too far. Too far? I looked at her face, twisted with anger and concern for Leo, and I started to laugh. It must have been a horrifying sound. Isabel, the difference between a human and an animal is that humans have brains. They can think. They have a moral compass. They don't just let their goddamn hormones and misguided savior complex dictate who they blindly protect. Since you're so determined to protect this maggot, Fina, I suddenly stopped fighting her, surrendering to the agonizing pain in my hand. Using the force of her pulling, I let my hand, now bloody and mangled, swing free. I raked my torn fingernails across the face that had been smugly posting on my Instagram feed, the face that was now a mask of terror. Agag, my face, my face. Blood welled up instantly, smearing across his cheek. Leo's scream shot up an octave, now filled with genuine, primal fear. And in that moment, I felt a wave of cruel, intoxicating satisfaction. I started laughing hysterically. Ha ha ha. Payback. This is fucking payback. Isabel, take a good look. I was never a saint. You of all people should have known that. I shook the blood from my hand, pointing at Leo, who was now writhing on the floor, and then at Isabel, who stood pale and trembling. My voice was a raw, destructive rasp. Isabel, you have finally truly pissed me off. I'm telling you right now, if I don't utterly destroy you two. My name isn't Ethan Hayes. Just then, Mark and the movers burst in. He saw the wrecked bedroom, saw Leo on the floor covered in blood, and yelled, "Holy shit." Then his eyes landed on my hand, mutilated, still dripping blood. Mark's face turned crimson with rage. He was a lion defending his cub. He pointed a shaking finger at Isabel and roared, "Isabel, God damn you, you soulless bitch. Are you even human? Ethan, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Isabel shrieked, her voice trembling with shock and anger as she saw Mark and the moving crew. I shook my throbbing hand, splattering more blood on the floor. I gave her a cold look, then glanced at Leo, who was still moaning on the ground. My voice was pure sarcasm. I was just planning on making some room for your little pet. But now, I walked over to one of the movers and pulled a heavy wrench from his tool belt. It doesn't matter anymore. As everyone watched in horror, I swung the wrench with all my might, smashing it into the large crystal-framed wedding portrait that hung above our bed. Crash! The sound was explosive. The crystal shattered, sending shards flying like shrapnel. Behind the fractured glass, the smiling, happy faces of our younger selves were now broken and unrecognizable. Just like our marriage. Nothing left but a pile of broken glass. "Guys," I said, handing the blood-specked wrench back to the stunned mover. My voice was terrifyingly calm. "I just Venmo'd your boss for the trouble. Thanks for coming out today." I gestured to the condo around us. "Everything in here, it's all tainted. It disgusts me. I don't want any of it. You can go." The foreman looked at the carnage, at my bleeding hand, and hesitated. "Sir, do you need us to call 911? Hearing the word 911, Leo, still on the floor, seemed to find a new surge of energy. "Don't you dare!" He shrieked through his hands. "He's the one who attacked me. He ruined my face. If anyone's calling the cops, it's me. I'm pressing charges for assault. I'll have him thrown in jail. Mark finally got a good look at Leo's scratched-up face and let out a derisive snort of laughter. Well, well, if it isn't Chicago's #1 drama queen, the one and only Leo Vance. What's the matter? Can't keep up the innocent act anymore. Finally showing your true colors. That face. Wow, it's a work of art. Very abstract. Leo shot Mark a venomous glare and, through his pain, tried to reclaim the moral high ground. Ethan, I never wanted to compete with you. Isabel gave me a chance when no one else would. I just wanted to repay her kindness. Why are you trying to destroy me? Why do you have to be so cruel? Don't you know how much a person's reputation matters? He yelled, his voice thick with tears. Of course you do. Isabel told me everything about how you were molested by those men. You're so dirty on the inside that you think everyone else is dirty too. You're a psychopath. Now, shut your mouth. Isabel screamed, her face turning a ghastly shade of white. Her eyes were wide with panic and fear. You've crossed a line. Stop it right now. I swayed on my feet, feeling like I'd been hit by a wrecking ball. I had 2 deep scars, one on my wrist and one on my soul. The one on my wrist was from saving her. The one on my soul was from a night I was taken in retaliation for saving her from kidnapping. I was locked in a dark, damp basement for what felt like an eternity. I got away before they could do what they threatened to do. But the absolute terror, the humiliation, the despair of that night, it never left me. I thought Isabel understood. I thought she was my partner in carrying that dark memory. I thought it was our deepest, most unbreakable secret. After all, it happened because I saved her. I never, ever imagined that my deepest trauma, the nightmare I could barely speak of, would be something she'd share with Leo. And I never imagined that this piece of shit would use it as a weapon against me, in the most vile way possible, to rip open my oldest wound and pour salt in it. An icy hand clenched around my heart, squeezing until I couldn't breathe. The world started to go dark at the edges. Yeah, I heard my own voice, distant and hollow with self-loathing. A guy who's been with men. How could I ever be clean? Isabel's face went white as a sheet. She lunged toward me, trying to grab me, her voice trembling with a new kind of panic. No, Ethan, that's not what I meant. I don't think you're dirty. I swear I never have. Please believe me. Leo is lying. Smack. I slapped her hand away with my good one. It wasn't a hard hit, but it was cold and final. Don't touch me, Isabel, I said, looking at her. The last bit of warmth in my eyes died, leaving only an empty void. Wait for the papers from my lawyer. As she tried to come after me again, Mark stepped between us like a brick wall. He pointed at her and the whimpering Leo on the floor and let loose a torrent of rage. You animals. Isabel, you're a goddamn ungrateful snake. And you, he sneered at Leo, you're a gutter rat with no soul. The two of you deserve each other. A match made in hell. Now get the hell out of my friend's sight before you contaminate him further. Mark half-dragged me out of that suffocating apartment and shoved me into his SUV. He didn't ask where we were going. I didn't have a destination. We just drove in silence, circling the vast, sprawling city of Chicago over and over again. The streetlights blurred into a river of gold, familiar streets and landmarks passing by like ghosts. There was no sense of belonging left. I remembered another night, long ago, just as quiet and terrifying. My mother, trying to save me from those same kidnappers, took a knife to the heart. She died in my arms, her warm blood soaking through my clothes. I remember being found by Isabel, broken, empty, and covered in that same blood. She had been hurt too, but she held on to me like I was the only thing left in the world. She held me in a cold night and swore, her voice shaking but fierce. Ethan, don't be afraid. From now on, I'll love you for her. I will love you with my entire life. I will always, always love you and protect you. I'll never let anything hurt you again. And I believed her. Like a fool, I believed every word. I took the huge inheritance my mother died to give me, and I used it to put us both through the best schools, through an MBA program at Stanford. I didn't hesitate to pour most of it into Isabel's startup, her seed money. I lived with her in a basement apartment, ate stale bread with her, pulled all-nighters working on her business plans, and humbled myself to beg for investors by her side. I watched her transform from a struggling kid into the titan of Chicago's business world, the renowned CEO of Reed Industries. They say it's easy to stick together when you have nothing, but hard to stay loyal when you have everything. That money changes people. I didn't believe it. I was determined to prove that Isabel and I were the exception, that our love could withstand anything. And what happened? Reality slapped me across the face so hard it left me dizzy. Even if it was just an emotional affair, even if, as she claimed, she never physically crossed that line. Her heart, her time, her loyalty, none of it belonged to me anymore. In Isabel Reed's world, I, Ethan Hayes, had been shoved into a dark corner, replaced by that manipulative fraud, Leo Vance. I had become an obstacle, an inconvenience. Cut your losses? My losses were a decade of my life. I was too damn late. Take me to the lawyer's office, I said, leaning my head back against the seat, my eyes closed. My voice was tired but calm. The decision was made. Mark didn't ask why. He just turned the wheel, and the SUV headed toward the towering skyscrapers of the Loop. Mark's childhood friend, David Chun, was the most feared divorce attorney in Chicago, a shark who specialized in messy, high-asset cases where one party was clearly at fault. His office was sleek, minimalist, and cold. He listened to my brief summary of events, quickly scanning the evidence I'd brought. Screenshots of Leo's Instagram, the police report, the release form, a secret recording I'd made of the confrontation at the apartment, and photos of my mangled hand and Leo's scratched face. David pushed his glasses up his nose, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. Mr. Hayes, I understand the situation. During your marriage, Ms. Reed maintained an inappropriately intimate relationship with her assistant, Leo Vance, constituting a major fault and causing you severe emotional distress. Mr. Vance repeatedly and intentionally destroyed your personal property, most significantly an invaluable family heirloom, and engaged in provocative and insulting behavior. You are the non-fault party, which gives us significant leverage in the division of assets. His fingers flew across his tablet, pulling up the ownership structure of Reed Industries. The most critical piece of this is your 15% stake in the company. Its original founder's stock, vested from your initial personal and inherited capital. It was the bedrock that allowed Reed Industries to become what it is today. This is your ace in the hole. Here is my recommendation, David said, his tone firm and confident. We launch a two-pronged attack. First, we immediately file for divorce, citing infidelity and spousal abuse, and petition for a disproportionate share of the assets. Second, we let it be known that you intend to sell your entire 15% stake to the highest bidder. Reed Industries is in the middle of a major expansion. Their cash flow is tight. If that block of shares falls into the hands of a competitor, or even a few of the board members who are already unhappy with Isabel's leadership, it would be catastrophic for her. It could cost her controlling interest. She can't afford that risk. It will force her to the negotiating table and compel her to make massive concessions. I don't just want the money, I told him, my voice flat and cold. I want her to hurt. I want her to regret it. And I want Leo Vance's life to be ruined. I want him run out of this city. A cool, professional smile touched David's lips. Understood. Maximizing your financial settlement is the baseline. As for the rest, Mr. Hayes, business is war. There are tactics we can employ, all perfectly legal. And Mr. Vance, I doubt his background is as clean as he pretends. Leave him to me. That afternoon, thanks to David's connections, a rumor spread through Chicago's financial district like wildfire. Ethan Hayes, the second largest individual shareholder of Reed Industries and husband of CEO Isabel Reed, was selling his entire 15% stake in the company due to irreconcilable marital issues. Highest bidder wins. Inquiries welcome. The news was a bomb dropped on a placid lake. The board of directors at Reed Industries went into a full-blown panic. The next morning, Isabel was dragged into an emergency board meeting. She looked haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. The ultimate irony was that Leo was with her, his face wrapped in so many bandages he looked like a mummy. Ethan, Isabel's voice was tired, her eyes a complex mix of anger and pleading as she looked at me, sitting at the far end of the table, flanked by Mark and David. How long are you going to keep this up? If you divest, have you considered what it will do to the company? To the employees who have worked so hard? What do you possibly gain from this? I leaned back in my chair, my hands folded on the table, and looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. Isabel, cut the crap. You have two options. One, you sign a divorce agreement right now, and I'll transfer my shares to a person of your choosing at market value. Or two, I continue with the public sale, and we'll see who the highest bidder is. Your choice. The moment I finished, the board members who had long been fed up with Isabel's autocratic style, and especially her flaunting of her pet project, Leo, pounced like sharks smelling blood. Isabel, we normally wouldn't interfere in your private life, but this is affecting the company's stock price and its future. We have to speak up, boomed a bald board member, Mr. Harrison. Exactly. We don't care who you're sleeping with, but you can't drag the whole company down with you. What do you even see in that assistant of yours? Huh? What can you do besides cry and kiss your ass? Another director slammed his hand on the table. Get this handled. Getting Ethan back on board is the priority. Those shares cannot go to an outside party. Isabel, you need to get your priorities straight, urged another. Leo, I told you from the start that boy was no good. He has the face of a con artist. How could you choose him over Ethan? Isabel, you've been a fool. An older woman on the board said, shaking her head in dismay. Leo trembled under the barrage of accusations. I decided to offer a helpful, though malicious, reminder. Leo, as a man, are you about to start crying again? Just a heads up, tears can infect those wounds. Your face. It might be permanently ruined. How will you make a living then? Leo's eyes went wide with terror. He immediately stopped his sniffling. Mark snorted with laughter. Leo was shaking with fury. His voice, muffled by the bandages, was aimed at me. Ethan, I know you hate me. I've already submitted my resignation to Isabel. She told me she doesn't want to lose you. I'll go. I'll leave right now. You win. Are you happy now? He sniffled, his voice choked with feigned sacrifice. I just came to say goodbye and to let you know, even though you scar my face and I could have had you arrested for assault and sent to prison. For Isabel's sake, I'm letting it go. Ethan, you shouldn't be so cruel. What goes around comes around. You'll get what's coming to you. Payback. He had the audacity to talk to me about payback. I almost laughed out loud. But then I saw Isabel looking at Leo's noble sacrifice, and that familiar, sickening look of pity filled her eyes. She took a deep breath, as if making a monumental concession, and turned to me. Her voice was laced with the exhaustion of someone bestowing a great gift. Fine, Ethan. I agree. I'll come back home. From now on, I'll only hire female assistants. I will never again have any contact outside of work with anyone who makes you uncomfortable. There. Are you satisfied now? Can you stop this? She still thought. She actually still believed that this whole scorched earth campaign was just my way of forcing her to come back to me. That it was all a ploy to win her back. Where did she get that kind of ego? The absolute nerve. Mark became my voice, letting out a sharp, derisive laugh. Well, look here. It's the return of the prodigal CEO. What's the matter? Isabel, had your fun? Ready to settle down again. A little late for that, don't you think? You think my boy Ethan is a recycling plant? That he'll just take back any piece of trash? What's that saying? Oh, right. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Before someone screws up, there's a little fight between their conscience and their libido. People with actual integrity know how to control themselves. But you? Where are you, Isabel? Mark pointed a finger at her, his words merciless. You're a hypocrite. You want to light the fire and then play the firefighter. You're arrogant and narcissistic enough to think my friend should be on his knees, weeping with gratitude that you've decided to grace him with your presence again. In your fucking dreams. Get lost. Ha. Mark's tirade finally broke me. I started laughing, so hard that tears streamed down my face. It was the laughter of irony, of release, of a heart that was finally completely dead. When I was done, I wiped my eyes and took the divorce agreement from David, an agreement with brutally harsh terms. I slapped it down on the table in front of Isabel. Sign it. I watched her face turn to stone, my eyes as cold and empty as a winter sky, before I completely lose my patience. Because in the next 60 seconds, my shares are going up for auction online. Starting bid, $1. A collective gasp went through the room. The board members' eyes were practically glowing with greed as they stared at Isabel, looking like they were about to sign it for her if she hesitated. The immense pressure, the predatory gazes of her colleagues, my relentless ultimatum. Isabel's body began to tremble. She stared at the papers, then back at me, her eyes a storm of conflict, rage, and a sliver of despair. Ethan, is there no room for negotiation? Her voice was dry and hoarse. Negotiation? I twisted my lips into a smile with no warmth. I only negotiate with human beings. Sign the papers. Finally, under the murderous glares of the board and the anxious, urging glances from Leo, Isabel's hand trembled as she picked up the pen and signed her name. The scratch of a nib on the paper was the sound of a guillotine falling. It was over. 10 years of my life with Isabel Reed, finally finished with a bloody, hateful period. I took the signed agreement and walked out of the conference room with Mark and David, without a single look back. Faintly, I could hear the board members' parting shots. Isabel, you'd better get your act together. You threw away a gold mine for some worthless piece of trash. You're a real genius. If the company takes a hit because of this, Isabel, it's all on you. Ethan was such a good man. You are a complete and utter fool. And then Leo's voice, hushed but still audible, dripping with false comfort and unconcealed glee. Isabel, don't be sad, even if the whole world turns against you. I'll always be by your side. Even if the whole world betrays you, I will always be on your side, and I will fight the world for you. That sentence, a rusty, dull knife, stabbed deep into my memory. It was me who carried her, bloody and barely breathing, into the ER. It was me who used my mother's inheritance, my emergency fund, to pay for her surgery and pull her back from the brink of death. Back then, sitting outside the operating room, staring at that glaring red light, I had only one thought. Isabel, don't die. Please don't die. I'll give up everything. Just please live. And she did. Later, she confessed her feelings for me, and we got together. It was a fairy tale. Mark had tried to warn me. Ethan, be careful, man. In this world, there are plenty of people who can handle tough times. The ones who can handle the good times? Not so many, especially when they get a taste of power. And what did I say? I was so sure, so damn confident. Isabel's different. She's the exception. We're going to grow old together. Looking back, I was a naive joke. The day our divorce was finalized, Mark and I were at our usual bar. I took a long pull of whiskey, the burn searing a path from my throat to my stomach. Brother, Mark threw an arm around my shoulders. Listen, you've got to fall flat on your face a few times to learn what hurts. And if you never learn what hurts, you'll never learn how to avoid it. The fall doesn't matter. It's about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and keeping your eyes open next time. I've always got your back. I received a massive settlement. Following David's plan, my 15% stake in Reed Industries was broken up and sold to 10 different shareholders, all of whom were either unhappy with Isabel's leadership or just wanted a piece of the pie. Reed Industries was no longer Isabel's kingdom. 10 shareholders meant 10 different agendas. It would be enough to keep her drowning in corporate politics for years. I heard that after the divorce, Isabel and Leo's relationship became public. He was still officially her assistant, but everyone at the company knew that he was the one who had loyally stood by her side during her darkest hour. Leo was living his best life. His Instagram was more active than an influencer's, a constant stream of posts showing off his victory and his supposed devotion. Being there for someone is the ultimate declaration of love. When you're at your lowest, I'll be your shadow. Photo. The shadows of two hands clasped against a sunset, clearly his and Isabel's. New beginnings, new journey. Grateful to have you by my side. Photo. Him sitting in Isabel's CEO chair, flashing a peace sign, her office in the background. The best gift is your smile. Photo. A giant bouquet of roses with a card reading, "To my star." Mark scrolled through his phone, grinding his teeth. This smug son of a bitch. It makes me sick. Ethan, you're just going to let them get away with this? It's too easy for them. Of course not, I said, slowly sipping my coffee. I tapped my finger on the screen, liking Leo's latest post. A second later, I refreshed the page. The post was gone. Part 4. The gala, the 5th anniversary gala for Reed Industries, was a spectacular, over-the-top affair. Leo, as Isabel's official date, was dressed to the nines, playing the part of the proud host. I figured Isabel was planning to use the event to formally introduce him to her world, to make him official. Too bad her carefully planned coronation was destined to become a public execution. At the height of the evening, as toasts were being made, the first disruption occurred. One after another, delivery guys in different company uniforms, FedEx, UPS, DHL, started showing up at the ballroom entrance, each carrying beautifully wrapped boxes of all sizes, all addressed to Ms. Isabel Reed. 1, 2, 3. Soon there were more than a dozen. The bizarre procession caught everyone's attention. Guests started to gather, whispering curiously. Wow, is Isabel trying to set a record for gifts received? Who sent all this? Come on, Isabel, open one. Let us see. Yeah, don't be shy. What's in the boxes? Isabel's expression shifted from confusion to unease. She looked at the growing mountain of packages and the expectant crowd, her brow furrowed. Leo stood beside her, a polite smile fixed on his face, but his eyes darted nervously. He touched her arm gently and said, just loud enough for those nearby to hear, Isabel, everyone's so excited. Why don't you open one? It's probably a thoughtful gift from a business partner. His encouragement was the final push she needed. She was trapped. Isabel took a deep breath, trying to suppress her anxiety, and forced a smile. All right. Let's see what we have here. She picked up the flattest, most elegant box from the top of the pile. With all eyes on her, she untied the silk ribbon and lifted the lid. There was no gift inside, just a thick stack of high-resolution, enlarged photographs. The subject of every photo was Leo. In one, he was having an intimate, candlelit dinner with a bloated, balding, middle-aged man. In another, they were embracing outside a hotel. In another, they were kissing on a public street. The man was Warren Shaw, the notorious CEO of Apex Global, Reed Industries' biggest rival. Holy shit. What? What the hell is this? Lau and Warren Shaw. Are they together? Oh my God. This is insane. The crowd erupted. Gasps and shocked murmurs filled the ballroom. Isabel's hands froze, the color draining from her face. Leo looked like he'd been struck by lightning. His face went completely white, his eyes bulging with pure terror. No, that's not real. Isabel, listen to me. They're photoshopped. Someone is framing me. He stammered, lunging for the pictures. Isabel snatched them away, her eyes as cold and sharp as shards of ice. As if in a desperate trance, she started tearing open the other boxes. The second box contained a small audio recorder. David, who had been observing from the side, signaled for the event staff to play it over the ballroom sound system. Leo's voice filled the room, soft and wheedling. Warren, darling, don't you worry. That fool Isabel is completely wrapped around my finger. She'll do anything I say. We just need to push a little harder, make her and Ethan have a total meltdown, get him to sell his shares. Once Reed Industries is in chaos, their cash flow will dry up. And then, with me on the inside and you on the outside, a hostile takeover will be child's play. The third box held more photos and documents, pictures of Leo and Warren Shaw at various private events, even a few of Leo looking like a devoted son while shopping with Shaw's elderly mother. The fourth box, the fifth, each one was another hammer blow, smashing Isabel's reality to pieces and exposing Leo's elaborate deception. Damn, so he was a corporate spy. I heard rumors he used to be a gold digger, that he specialized in bankrupting his rich lovers. I guess the rumors were true. Isabel really let a wolf into her house. She was being sold out and was probably helping him count the money. And to expose it all tonight at her anniversary gala. Damn, that's cold-blooded. How is she ever going to show her face in this city again? This is going to be the joke of the year. Not only cheated on, but cheated on by the person she trusted most. Ha ha ha. The truth was out. Leo wasn't some devoted partner. He was a con artist, a corporate spy planted by a rival to seduce Isabel, destroy her marriage, and ruin her company. His supposed love for her was nothing but an act. A calculated, devastating lie. Isabel stared at the damning evidence, at Leo's face, now a grotesque mask of fear and deceit. Her mind flashed back through the past year. Every one of my accusations, every one of my desperate pleas, every time I'd broken down and asked her, Isabel, do you still love me? Do you even remember what you promised me? And in that instant, she finally understood. The gut-wrenching pain of being betrayed by the one person you trusted completely. The humiliation of being played for a fool. The soul-crushing agony of having your entire reality collapse. It came rushing in, a tidal wave of regret and despair, 1,000 icy needles piercing her to the core. Her body swayed violently. Her face was ashen, her eyes vacant, as if her soul had been ripped out. She looked from the scattered photos to the crowd's mix of pitying, mocking, and gleeful expressions, and finally, her gaze landed on Leo. With a soft thud, Isabel's legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor, a statue whose foundations had crumbled to dust. Isabel, what happened? Is she in shock? Did she just snap? Everyone assumed she had collapsed from the heartbreak of discovering her great love was a lie. But I knew the truth. Looking at that mess, at those meticulously curated gifts, Isabel knew instantly that it was my handiwork. She had been walking a path with me, but allowed herself to be lured down a different road by Leo. Now, realizing her mistake, she turned to come back, only to find that the path leading back to me had been irrevocably destroyed by her own foolishness and betrayal. The weight of it all crushed her. She let out a guttural, inhuman scream, shoved away the people trying to help her, and scrambled to her feet. She stumbled through the crowd and fled the glittering ballroom like a wounded animal. She left behind a stunned audience and a pale, disgraced Leo, who was now the sole focus of everyone's contempt. I had no interest in seeing the aftermath, but Mark, ever the gossip, got his hands on a video from the event. He watched it cackling. Ha ha ha. Ethan, you gotta see this. That idiot Isabel just collapses. Then she runs out like a stray dog, doesn't even spare a glance for her precious boy toy. The whole city is talking about it. How she was so madly in love with Leo that finding out he was gay and a spy made her lose her mind. Ha ha ha. Serve her right, doesn't it? Mark started mimicking her, batting his eyelashes and leaning against me. Oh, Ethan, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Ugh, it makes me want to puke. I shook my head at his antics, flipping through real estate listings for apartments in different cities and the business cards of relocation specialists. All right, knock it off. Take a look. Where do you want to go? I am done with Chicago. I don't want to spend another day in this goddamn city. Mark's eyes lit up. He leaned in close. My man, are you finally going to make an honest man of me and become my sugar daddy? Let's go. To the ends of the earth. As long as you're buying. I'm riding shotgun. Part 5. The end a few days before we were set to leave Chicago for good. 2 pieces of news hit the wire. The first, Isabel had liquidated nearly her entire controlling stake in Reed Industries, selling it off at a fraction of its market value. The entire astronomical sum was then wired directly into my bank account. The memo line contained only 3 words, giving it back. The second, outside the luxury apartment building where Leo was living, Isabel, who hadn't been seen for weeks, emerged from the shadows like a ghost. She was holding a knife, and she plunged it into Leo's stomach as he was coming home from a late night out. 3 times, each one a fatal blow. Leo died on the pavement. Isabel didn't run. She simply sat down in the spreading pool of blood, cradling his body, laughing and crying until the police arrived. Mark was scrolling through the news on his phone. He flinched at the graphic crime scene photos. Jesus Christ. Your ex-wife. She's a psycho killer. A literal fucking psycho. Man, it's a good thing we're getting out of here. Ethan, all those times we yelled at her and insulted her, you think she was picturing doing this to us? Holy shit. We dodge a bullet, man. I stare at the impossibly long string of numbers in my banking app, then at the news photo of Isabel, sitting in a pool of blood, her eyes empty and numb. I felt nothing, just a deep, profound exhaustion and a strange, hollow sadness. Just then my phone buzzed. A new text message. It had been scheduled to send. The sender, Isabel Reed. Ethan, that night outside the basement, if you hadn't drawn them away, they would have dragged me back in and killed me. You gave me a second chance at life. Everything I accomplished these past few years, the success, the money, the power, it was all because of you. I just lost sight of what was truly valuable. I'm giving it all back now, along with the life you saved. I'm sorry. And thank you. Don't look back. Just live. A few days later, another news alert. Isabel Reed, awaiting trial in her jail cell, had sharpened the handle of her toothbrush and used it to sever the carotid artery in her neck. She was dead before the guards found her. The report said she had a strange, peaceful smile on her face. Mark read the news and was silent for a long time. Finally, he let out a heavy sigh and put his arm around my shoulder. "It's over, brother. Let's go. Time for a new life." I turned off my phone, tossed it deep into my backpack, and looked up at the new, unfamiliar landscape flying past the car window. "Yeah," I said. "Let's go."